upper window overlooking the palace square. There she greeted the conqueror upon his triumphal entry, saying, "Did it go all right with Zimri, the killer of his lord?" This sarcastic greeting was probably a veiled threat, for Zimri, after killing his king and usurping the throne, committed suicide 7 days later when his life was threatened. 2 Kai 9. 30, 31. 1 Kai 16. 10, 15, 18. Jehu's response to this hostile reception was, "Who is with me?" "Who?" When 2 or 3 court officials looked out, he commanded, "Let her drop." In the violence of the fall, her blood splattered the wall and the horses, and she was trodden underfoot, presumably by the horses. Shortly thereafter, when men came to bury this daughter of a king, they found the scavenger dogs had already practically disposed of her, just as the word of Jehovah that he spoke by means of his servant Elijah had foretold, leaving only the skull, the feet, and the palms of her hands as evidence that all that Jehovah says comes true. 2 Kai 9. 32-37. 2. That woman in the congregation of Thyatira who called herself a prophetess. This woman no doubt was given the name Jezebel, because her wicked conduct resembled that of Ahab's wife. Not only did this woman teach false religion and mislead many to commit fornication and idolatry, but she also callously refused to repent. For this reason the Son of God declared she would be thrown into a sickbed and her children would be killed, to show that each one receives according to one's deeds. Read 2. 18-23. Jezer he has formed. The third listed son of Naphtali. Founder of the family of Jezerites. Ge 46. 24. New 26. 48, 49. 1 Ch 7. 13. Jezerites Jezer Middleites of belonging to Jezer. A family of Naphtali that sprang from Jezer. New 26. 48, 49. Jeziel Jezi Middle.L. A Benjamite son of Asmaveth who sided with David when he was outlawed by Saul. 1 Ch 12. 1-3. Jezreel Jezreel Middle.L. God will sow seed, Jezreelite Jezreel Middle.L Middle.ite. 1. A descendant of Judah. Possibly the forefather of the inhabitants of Jezreel. No. 3 or its principal settler. 1 Ch 4. 1, 3. 2. Son of the prophet Hosea by his wife Gomer. 1. 3, 4. For the prophetic significance of Jezreel, see no. 4. 3. An unidentified city in the mountainous region of Judah, perhaps founded by number 1. Jos 15. 20, 48, 56. This Jezreel doubtless was the home of David's wife Ahinoam. 1 Sir 25. 43. 27. 3. 4. A city on the border of Issachar's territory. Jos 19. 17, 18. Today Jezreel is identified with Zerenteli Israel, located Otextoe Acute Miritra Longo. Joab 77. Hosea's prophecy. The words of Jehovah to Hosea 1. 4 regarding the acts of bloodshed of Jezreel are not to be understood as referring to Jehu's destroying Ahab's ungodly house. Jehu was used as Jehovah's instrument in executing divine judgment. However, it may well be that the wrong motivations that were behind Jehu's continuing to let calf worship remain also caused him to make himself guilty of bloodshed. 2 Kai 10. 30, 31. The prophetic name Jezreel, by which Jehovah instructed Hosea to call his son by Gomer, pointed to a future accounting against the house of Jehu. God would sow seed in that he would cause a scattering of it. The accounting against Jehu's house came when Jehu's great-great-grandson Zechariah, after ruling for 6 months, was murdered and the assassin Shallum seized the throne. 2 Kai 15. 8-10. Thus ended the dynasty of Jehu. About 50 years later, in 740 BCE, when the northern kingdom fell to Assyria and its inhabitants were exiled, the royal rule of the house of Israel ceased completely. At that time the bow of Israel, that is, its military strength, was definitely broken. The prophecy had indicated that this would take place in the low plain of Jezreel, perhaps because the Assyrians gained a decisive victory there. Ho 1. 4:5. However, through his prophet Hosea, Jehovah also pointed to a favorable meaning of Jezreel. By gathering the remnant of Israel and Judah and then bringing his people back to their land, Jehovah would sow seed, causing them to increase in numbers there. Ho 1. 11. 2. 21-23. Compares 8:10. 8-10. 5. The geographic area embraced by the plain of Jezreel. This designation is often restricted to the low plain extending in a southeasterly direction from the city of Jezreel in Issachar to Beth Shean on the western edge of the Jordan Valley. But the designation Valley of Jezreel has also been used to include the low plain W of Jezreel, the plain of Israel in the Greek form of the Hebrew Jezreel. Therefore, in the broad sense the Valley of Jezreel includes the whole plain from the Carmel Range to the Jordan River. Situated at the edge of a rocky descent, the city of Jezreel's rim overlooks the entire eastern part of the Valley of Jezreel, extending southeastward for nearly 19 kilometers 12 mi and measuring about 3 kilometers 2 mi in width. In the time of Joshua this area was controlled by Canaanites having a strong, well-equipped chariotry. Judges 17. 16. It was also in this valley that Gideon and his 300 men witnessed Jehovah's saving hand as the enemy forces of the Midianites, Amalekites, and Ishtanas turned against one another in confusion. JG 6. 33. 7. 12-22 Later, the Israelite army under King Saul, when facing the enemy Philistines, encamped by the spring in Jezreel, perhaps Angelot on the NW spur of Mount Gilboa or Ain El Me'ite below the town of Zrin. Thereafter, from Jezreel report was received about the deaths of Saul and his son Jonathan. 1 Sa 29. 1, 11. 2 Sa 4. For Jezreel and its vicinity then came to be part of the territory ruled by Saul's son Ishbosheth. 2 Sa 2. 8, 9. And while Solomon reigned, the assignment of the deputy Baranah included the fertile plain of Jezreel. 1 Kai 4. 7, 12. Jidlaph. The seventh listed of the 8 sons born to Nahor by his wife Milcah. Jidlaph was therefore a nephew of Abraham and an uncle to Isaac's wife Rebekah. GE 22. 20-23. 24. 67. Joab Jehovah his father. 1. Son of Sariah, a descendant of Kenaz of the tribe of Judah. Joab was the father of Gerashim, meaning valley of craftsmen. 4. Says the Bible account, craftsmen are what they became. Evidently Joab was father or founder of the community of craftsmen living in the valley. 1 Ch 4. 1, 13, 14. CGE Harashim. 2. The second of 3 sons of David's sister or half-sister Zeruiah, possibly the daughter of David's mother by an earlier marriage to Nahash. 2 17. 25. Joab was therefore Otex to a acute Miritra Longo, Joab 78 down dead together. 2 2. 12-16. Since the issue was not settled by the combat, a full-scale battle resulted. Accounts afterward revealed that Ishbosheth's forces lost 360 men, and David's, only 20. 2 2. 30, 31. During the fight, as Abner fled, Joab's fleet-footed brother Asahel pursued Abner. Despite remonstrances and warnings from Abner, Asahel persisted until finally Abner thrust backward with the butt end of his spear, piercing him through. 2 2. 18-23. Reaching the hill of Ammah, Abner and his men gathered on its top, from which Abner made appeal to stop the fighting in order to avoid bitterness and endless slaughter. Joab here demonstrated practical wisdom by heeding the appeal and returning to David at Hebron. 2 2. 24-28, 32. Slays Abner in vengeance. Joab's desire for vengeance, nevertheless, smoldered in him, and he waited for opportunity to satisfy it. In the meantime he engaged in a drawn-out war with Saul's house, which constantly declined, while David grew stronger. Eventually Abner, offended at Ishbosheth over a personal matter, made a covenant with David, promising to bring all Israel over to David's side. 2 3. 6-21. Joab strongly disagreed with the transaction, charging Abner with being a spy. But pretending friendship for Abner, Joab caught Abner off guard and slew him in revenge for his brother Asahel. he may also have felt that he was at the same time eliminating a possible rival for the post of commander of David's army. 2-3. 22-27. When David heard of the murder, he disclaimed guilt for his own house before all Israel and said, "May it well back upon the head of Joab and upon the entire house of his father, and let there not be cut off from Joab's house a man with a running discharge or a leper, one diseased or a man taking hold of the twirling spindle perhaps, one crippled or one falling by the sword or one in need of bread." David did not act at this time against Joab and Abishai, who connived with Joab in the murder, because, as he said, "I today am weak although anointed as king, and these men, the sons of Zeruiah, are too severe for me. May Jehovah repay the doer of what is bad according to his own badness." 2-3. 28-30, 35-39. Commander of the armies of Israel. After David had been anointed as king of all Israel, he went up against Jerusalem Jebus. The Jebusites taunted David, thinking that their position was unassailable. But David saw that the city was vulnerable through its water tunnel. Hence, he offered the position as head and prince to anyone who would climb up the tunnel and be first to strike the Jebusites. Joab went up, the city fell to David, and Joab was rewarded with the high position of commander of the armies of Israel. 2-5. 6-8. 8. 16. 20. 23. 1ch11. 4-8 As commander, Joab had a body of 10 personal attendants bearing his weapons, among whom was the mighty man Naharai the Beerothite. 2-18. 15. 1ch11. 39. After David's conquest of Edom, Joab remained there for 6 months in an effort to destroy every male among them. 2-8. 13, 14. 1k11. 14-17 Later, Joab manifested military leadership in the fight with the Ammonites and Syrians, putting his brother Abishai in charge of one division, to defeat a pincer movement of the enemy forces. 2-10. 8-14. 1ch19. 6-16 He doubtless played a large part in the other battles fought by David against the Philistines, the Moabites, and others. Supports David's kingship. At the siege of Rabbah of Ammon, Joab appeared to evince loyalty to David as Jehovah's anointed king. He took the city of waters, possibly meaning that part of the city containing its water supply or the fort protecting its water supply. With this vital part of the city taken, the capital city could not hold out much longer, and surrender would be inevitable. Instead of pressing the siege of the city to a successful climax by himself, Joab, whether actually out of respect for the king, O textoi acute miritra longo, Joab 79 3 years for slaying his half-brother Amnon, sent a woman from Tekoa to David, putting words in her mouth to appeal for Absalom's return. The appeal was successful, and Joab brought Absalom back to Jerusalem, though David would not see Absalom. 2 years later Absalom repeatedly requested Joab to come and approach the king in his behalf, but Joab declined. Finally Absalom resorted to the device of setting Joab's barley field afire, which brought a quick and angry response from Joab. Absalom was then able to give the reason for his act, and he induced Joab to see the king to bring about restoration of Absalom to David's favor. 2-13. 38. 14. 1-33. Though Joab supported Absalom's cause in achieving his return, when Absalom rebelled, Joab supported David. David placed Joab in charge of a third part of his men, with strict orders to deal gently with Absalom. But during the fight Joab disobeyed David's order and killed Absalom. 2-18. 1-17 Here, as in some other cases, he put his own judgment ahead of theocratic orders through God's anointed king. But he had the courage to speak in a bold, direct manner to David afterward, when David's mourning for Absalom endangered the unity of the kingdom. 2-19. 1-8. Removed, then reinstated, as army chief. Evidently because of Joab's disobedience in the killing of Absalom, David replaced Joab as chief of the army, appointing Amasa. 2-19. 13 Amasa, however, did not prove to be the general that Joab had been. When commanded by David to call the men of Judah together to fight the rebel Sheba the son of Bichri, Amasa called Judah, but he came later than the time appointed by David. Because the matter was urgent, David commissioned Abishai to go after Sheba, saying that he may not actually find for himself fortified cities and escape before our eyes. In the ensuing fight, Joab appears to have taken the lead as he had done when armor chief. At the siege of Abel of Beth-Makkah that followed, the citizens of the town threw Sheba's head over the wall at Joab's bidding, and Joab spared the city, withdrawing and returning to Jerusalem. 2 Sa 20. 1-7, 14-22. Murders Amasa. During the pursuit of Sheba, Joab committed a grave crime. As Amasa, who was his cousin. 2 Sa 17. 25. 1 Ch 2. 17 came to meet him near the great stone in Gibeon. Joab let his sword fall out of its sheath. Picking it up, he held it conveniently in his left hand as he took hold of Amasa's beard with his right hand, as if to curse him. Because Amasa was off guard, Joab was able to kill him with one thrust of his sword. It is true that Joab may have had some distrust of Amasa, because he had headed Absalom's rebellious army. But be that as it may, Joab, the opportunist, seized on a time of emergency and strive to advance his personal career by murdering his rival. David may have deferred action against Joab because of Amasa's recent connections with Absalom and the fact that Joab had only recently fought the rebel forces of Absalom under Amasa's leadership. According to Joab's ambitious wishes, he was again made head of the army. 2 Sa 20. 8-13, 23. Why did David fail to execute Joab when he murdered Abner, and why did he reappoint Joab as general over the army after he had also murdered Amasa, who has been made general to replace Joab? The Bible does not say. If it was weakness in enforcing God's law, it may have been because of the strength and influence of Joab and his family in the army. Or there may have been other circumstances that the Bible does not relate. At any rate, it must be remembered that David, though not executing Joab for some reason, whether good or bad, did not forgive him, but he charged Solomon his son and successor to see that Joab paid for his badness. Takes incomplete census. At another time David was incited by Satan to take an illegal census of the people. Joab remonstrated with David, to no avail. But he did not complete the work. O text to acute miritra longo. Joah 80. The 60th Psalm, the Psalm of David, is devoted, in its latter verses 8-12, to Joab's victory over the Edomites. See the superscription of this psalm. 3. The head of a family of sons of Pahath-Moab, some of whom returned in 537 BCE from Babylonian exile, with Zerubbabel. As 2. 1, 2, 6. Ne 7. 6, 7, 11. 4. At Ezra 1, 9, sons of Joab are listed among those returning with Ezra in 468 BCE. At that time Obadiah the son of Jehiel was family head. In this text they are not connected with the house of Pahath-Moab, but it is possible that they are of the same family or were related to No. 3. Jehovah is brother companion. 1. One of the Levitical gatekeepers assigned in David's day to guard duty over the storehouses. The third son of Obed-Edom. 1 Ch 26. 1, 4, 12-15. 2. A Levite descended from Gershon, son of Zimmer. 1 Ch 6. 1, 19b-21. He is possibly the same Joah who, with his son, helped dispose of the unclean objects that Hezekiah had removed from the temple at the beginning of his reign. 2 Ch 29. 1, 3, 12, 16. 3. One of the committee of 3 sent by King Hezekiah to hear what the Assyrian messenger Rabshakeh would say, but who were not to answer his charges and brags. Joah and his 2 companions did, however, ask Rabshakeh to speak to them in the Syrian tongue, which they themselves understood, rather than in the Jews' language in the hearing of others on the city wall. With their clothes ripped apart, they reported his threats to Hezekiah. 2 Chi 18. 18, 26, 36, 37. Issa 36. 3, 11, 21, 22. The construction of the text, Joah the son of Asaph the recorder, allows for either Joah or Asaph to be the recorder, but it is more likely that Joah himself held this office, just as the 2 with him are also described by their office. 4. the recorder by whom King Josiah sent money to the workers to repair the temple. Son of Joahaz. 2ch 34. 8-11. Joahaz. Joah middle dot has shortened form of Joahaz, meaning may Jehovah take hold. Jehovah has taken hold. 1. Variant spelling of the name of Joahaz, king of Israel, as found in certain translations as J.P. Ro. R.S. of 2 Kings 14. 1. There the Masoretic text reads Yo middle dot a middle dot Chaz, but on the authority of Hebrew manuscripts that read Eho middle dot a middle dot Chaz, other translations at J.B. Mo. N.W. render the name Joahaz. See Joahaz no. 2. 2. Father of King Josiah's recorder Joah. 2ch 34. 1, 8. 3. Variant spelling, a 2 Chronicles 36. 2. Of the name of Joahaz, the son and successor of Josiah, king of Judah. Here certain translations as, at, J.P. Ro follow the Masoretic text and read Joahaz, whereas others K.J., J.B. Mo. N.W. read Joahaz. See Joahaz no. 3. Johanan. Jo middle dot an shortened form of Johanan, meaning Jehovah has shown favor. Jehovah has been gracious. An ancestor of Jesus' mother Mary. Listed apparently as grandson of Zerubbabel. Luke 3. 23, 27. Joanna. Jo middle dot an shortened feminine form of Johanan, meaning Jehovah has shown favor. Jehovah has been gracious. One of several women whom Jesus Christ cured of infirmities and who then became his followers, ministering to him and his apostles from their own possessions. Luke 8. 1-3. Joanna was apparently with the women present at Jesus' impalement. Having prepared spices and oil to take to his tomb, these women were among the first to find that he has been resurrected. The 11 apostles, however, found their report difficult to believe. Luke 23. 49, 55, 56. 24. 1-11. Joanna's husband Chuza was steward of Herod Antipas. Luke 8. 3. Joash. This name is spelled 2 ways in Hebrew, though only as Josh in English. The first and more common, Yo middle dot Ash, is a shortened form of Jehosh. Numbers 1 and 5 listed below are the other spelling, Yo middle dot Ash. 1. A Benjamite in the family line of Becca. 1ch 7. 6, 8. 2. A descendant of Judah through his third-named son Shelah. 1ch 2. 3. 4. 21, 22. 3. The father of Judge Gideon. An Abiezrite of the Otextoe Acute Miritra Longo, Job, Book of 81. The latter was outlawed by Saul, son of Shammah the Gibeonite. 1ch 12. 1-3. 5. A chief appointed by King David to oversee the oil supplies. 1ch 27. 28, 31. 6. One of those into whose custody the faithful prophet Micaiah was committed for imprisonment by Ahab. He is designated the king's son. 1 22. 26, 27. 2ch 18. 25, 26. This expression may refer to an offspring of King Ahab, or it could denote an official of royal descent or someone else closely connected with the royal household. 7. Shortened form of Jehoash, king of Judah and son of Ahaziah. 2 2, 3, 21. Josh as an alternate spelling for Jehoash occurs many times in the Masoretic Hebrew text, as is pointed out in footnotes of the New World Translation. 2 12. 19. 1ch 3. 11. 2ch 24. 1, 2. See Jehoash number 1. 8. Shortened form of Jehoash, king of Israel, son of Joahaz and grandson of Jehu. 2 14. 1, 8, 9. This alternate spelling Josh often occurs in the Masoretic text. 2 13. 9, 12, 13. 2ch 25. 17, 18, 21. Ho 1. 1. Am 1. 1. Si Jehoshno. 2. Job object of hostility. A man living in the land of Uz, in what is now Arabia. Job 1. 1 God said concerning Job. There is no one like him in the earth, a man blameless and upright, fearing God and turning aside from bad. Job 1. 8 This would indicate that Job lived in Uz at about the time that his distant cousins, the 12 tribes of Israel, were in slavery down in the land of Egypt. By then Joseph the son of Jacob Israel had died 1657 BCE after he had endured much unjust suffering, but had kept his blamelessness toward Jehovah God. Moses had not yet risen up as Jehovah's prophet to lead the 12 tribes of Israel out of Egyptian slavery. Between Joseph's death and the time when Moses by his conduct showed himself to be blameless and upright, there was no human with integrity like Job's. It was likely during this period that the conversations involving Job took place between Jehovah and Satan. Job 1. 6-12. 2. 1-7. Moses is generally credited with writing the account of Job's experiences. He could have known about Job when he spent 40 years in Midian and may have heard of Job's final outcome and death when Israel was near Uz toward the end of its wilderness journey. If Moses completed the book of Job about the time of Israel's entry into the Promised Land in 1473 BCE, probably not long after Job's death, this would place the time of Job's trial about 1613 BCE, for Job lived 140 years after his trial was over. Job 42. 16-17. Job was a relative of Abraham, both being descendants of Shem. Though not an Israelite, Job was a worshipper of Jehovah. He was the greatest of all the Orientals, possessing great wealth. His family consisted of his wife, 7 sons, and 3 daughters. Job 1. 1-3 He conscientiously performed duties as a priest for his family, offering sacrifices to God in their behalf. Job 1. 4-5. Job was a figure of importance in the gate of the city, even aged men and princes giving him respect. Job 29. 5-11 He sat as an impartial judge, executing justice as a champion of the widow, and was like a father to the fatherless boy, the afflicted, and those who had no help. Job 29. 12-17 He kept himself clean from immorality, greedy materialism, and idolatry, and he was generous to the poor and needy. Job 31. 9-28. Job's integrity. Job's integrity to Jehovah was challenged by Satan. Then Jehovah, with confidence in that integrity and knowing his own ability to recover and reward Job, permitted Satan to test Job's integrity to the limit, but he did not allow Satan to kill Job. Although Satan, through various means, took away first Job's livestock and servants and then his children. Job 1. 13-19, Job never charged God with folly or wrongdoing. Neither did he turn away from God, even when pressure was brought upon him by his own wife and by others. Job 1. 20-22. 2. 9-10 He spoke the truth about God. Job 42. 8 He accepted o texto e acute miritra longo. Job, Book of 82 originally written in Hebrew. The many similarities to the Pentateuch in the prose portion of the book tend to point to Moses as the writer. During his 40-year stay in Midian, Moses could have had access to the facts about Job's trial, and he likely learned of the outcome of Job's life when Israel came near Uz on the way to the Promised Land, in 1473 BCE arrangement. The book of Job is unique in that it consists largely of a debate between a true servant of Jehovah God and 3 others who claimed to serve God, but were in doctrine in their attempts to correct Job. Job, they mistakenly thought, was being punished by God for some grievous hidden sin. Thus, arguing on this basis, they actually became Job's persecutors. Job 19. 1-5, 22 The debate consists of a series of 3 rounds of speeches, in which all 4 speakers participate, except that Zophar does not speak in the last round, having been silenced by Job's argument. Thereafter all are corrected by Jehovah's spokesman Elihu, and finally by God himself. It is clear, therefore, that one has to bear in mind when reading or quoting from the book that the arguments presented by Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar are erroneous. At times these 3 companions of Job state true facts, but in a setting and with an application that is wrong. Satan used this tactic against Jesus Christ when he took him along into the holy city, and he stationed him upon the battlement of the temple and said to him, "If you are a son of God, hurl yourself down. For it is written, He will give His angels a charge concerning you, and they will carry you on their hands, that you may at no time strike your foot against a stone." Jesus said to him, "Again it is written, you must not put Jehovah your God to the test." Mount 4. 5-7. The companions of Job said that God punishes the wicked. This is true. 2 Pe 2. 9. But they can keep account of Job's experiences when Satan challenged his integrity before Jehovah, likely recorded by Moses during Israel's wandering in the wilderness. Although the trial of Job must have occurred some years before Moses' birth, Job's prosperity and well-being, and when Jehovah grants Satan permission to test Job 1. 2. 10. Satan claims that Job's uprightness is motivated simply by self-interest. Job loses cattle, flocks, and his 10 children all in one day, but he keeps integrity. He is then afflicted with a loathsome, painful disease but refuses to curse God. Thus, Job remains faithful. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, 3 companions of Job, come together by appointment to sympathize with him too. 11. 3. 26. They sit around him in silence for 7 days. Job breaks the silence, cursing the day of his birth. He wonders why God allows him to go on living. The 3 so-called comforters debate at length with Job 4. 31. 40. They contend that he is suffering because of his sins, arguing that Job must be in the wrong since God is treating him as an enemy. They try to persuade Job of this by resorting to false reasoning and slander, and by appealing to tradition and visions they claim to have seen. The 3 companions urge Job to confess his wrongdoing and change his ways. Then, they say, he will regain his former prosperity. Job insists that he is upright. He does not understand why Jehovah allows him to suffer, but he silences the false counsel of his 3 companions in his final words. Job contrasts his former days as a respected elder with his present period of affliction and humiliation. He points out how careful he has been to avoid a sin. Elihu, a young bystander, corrects Job and his companions. 32. 37. 24. He shows that Job was in the wrong when he justified himself rather than God, and he upbraids Job's 3 companions for failing to answer Job correctly. Elihu upholds Jehovah's justice, impartiality, glory, and almightiness. O textoi acute miritra longo. Job, Book of 83, concluded that all suffering a person undergoes is a result of sins on his part. That God is thereby administering punishment to him. Suffering, they said, is an evidence that an individual has specially sinned. They spoke untruthfully concerning God. Job 42. 7. They slandered him. As they presented God, he was lacking in mercy. Their claim was that God has no delight in the integrity-keeping man, and that he has no trust in his servants, even in angels. This denies the many scriptural statements revealing Jehovah's love for his intelligent servants. An example of God's confidence and trust in his faithful worshippers is seen in his conversations with Satan, in which he called attention to Job and expressed the greatest confidence in Job's loyalty when giving the devil permission to test Job. Note, however, that he protected Job's life. Job 2. 6. The Christian writer James says of God's dealings with Job, Jehovah is very tender in affection and merciful. Jos 5. 11. Amportnce. The Book of Job is essential, in conjunction with Genesis 3. 1-6 and other scriptures, in revealing the great issue of the righteousness of God and his exercise of sovereignty, as well as the manner in which the integrity of God's earthly servants is involved in the issue. This issue Job did not understand, but he, nevertheless, did not allow his 3 companions to make him doubt that he has been a man of integrity. Job 27. 5. He did not understand why his calamity came upon him, since he was no practicer of sin. He was off balance on the matter of self-justification, no doubt being pushed farther in that direction by the constant charges of his 3 companions. He was also mistaken in insisting on receiving an answer from God as to why he was suffering, when he should have realized that no one can rightly say to Jehovah, "Why did you make me this way?" Row 9. 20. Nevertheless, Jehovah mercifully answered Job, both through his servant Elihu and by speaking to Job from the windstorm. The Book of Job. Point of comparison. Other Bible references. 3. 17-19 The dead know not anything, but are as those asleep. EC 9. 5, 10. Joe 11. 11-14. 1 Co 15. 20, 10. For God does not judge from man's viewpoint. 1 So 16. 7, 10. 8, 9, 11, 12 God's great care in forming man. PS 139. 13-16, 12. 23 God lets the nations grow powerful and even unite against him so that he can justly destroy them at one stroke. Re 17. 13, 14, 17 14. 1-5 Man is born in sin and in bondage to death. PS 51. 5. Row 5. 12-14. 13-15 Resurrection of the dead. 1 Co 15. 21-23, 17. 9 The righteous one is not stumbled, no matter what others do. PS 119. 165, 19. 25 Jehovah's purpose to redeem, repurchase, release faithful mankind. Row 3. 24. 1 Co 1. 30-21. 23-26 All men subject to the same eventuality. All are the same in death. EC 9. 2, 3-24. 3-12 Affliction by wicked Christians so treated. 2 Co 6. 4-10. 11. 24-27-24. 13-17 Wicked love darkness rather than light. Light terrifies them. Joe 3. 19-26. 6 All things are exposed before the eyes of Jehovah. Heb 4. 13-27. 8-10 Apostate one will not genuinely call on God nor be heard by him. Heb 6. 4-6, 27. 12 Those seeing visions of own heart, not from God, utter vain things. J 23. 16, 27. 16, 17 The righteous will inherit the wealth amassed by the wicked. 6. 10, 11. PR 13. 22 Chap 28 Man cannot find the true wisdom from book of divine creation, only from God and fear of whom. EC 12. 13. 1 Co 2. 11-16, 30. 1, 2, 8, 12 Worthless, senseless idlers are used to persecute God's servants. 17. 5, 32. 22 Bestowing unscriptural titles is wrong. Mount 23. 8-12, 34. 14, 15 Life of all flesh is in Jehovah's hand. PS 104. 29, 30. Issa 64. 8. Acts 17. 25, 28, 34. 19 Jehovah is not partial. Act 10. 34, 34. 24, 25 Jehovah takes down, sets up rulers as he wills. 2. 21. 4. 25, 36. 24. 40. 8 Declaring of God's righteousness. O textoi acute miritra longo. Job 84 therefore strongly drives home the wrongness of attempting to justify oneself before God. Job 40. 8. Authenticity and value. Ezekiel refers to Job, and James makes mention of him. As 14. 14, 20. Just 5. 11 Arguing powerfully for the book's canonicity is the fact that the Jews accepted it as of equal authority with the other inspired books of the Hebrew Scriptures, even though Job was not an Israelite. Perhaps the strongest evidence of the book's genuineness exists in its harmony with the rest of the Bible. It also reveals much about the beliefs and customs of patriarchal society. More than that, it greatly helps the Bible student to get a better understanding of Jehovah's purposes through a comparison with other Bible statements. There are a remarkable number of points that are parallel in thought with other Bible passages, and some of these are listed on the accompanying chart. Jobab 1. The descendant of Shem through Joktan. GE 10. 21, 25, 29. 1 ch 1. 23 The exact region settled by the offspring of Jobab is not known today. 2. Son of Zerah from Bozrah. An Edomite monarch who reigned sometime before Saul ruled as Israel's first king. Jobab succeeded Bela the son of Beer to the throne. GE 36. 31-34. 1ch1. 43-45. 3. King of Madin, a city in northern Palestine. Jobab and other monarchs joined Jabin the king of Hazor in an offensive against the Israelites, but suffered defeat at the waters of Merom. Jos 11. 1-8. 12. 19. 4. Son of the Benjamite Shaharaim by his wife Hodesh. 1ch 8. 1, 8, 9. 5. A descendant of the Benjamite Shaharaim through Elpal. 1ch 8. 1, 8, 11, 18. Jocheb Jochi Middle.bed possibly, Jehovah is glory. A daughter of Levi, who married Amram of the same tribe, and became the mother of Miriam, Aaron, and Moses. X6. 20. New 26. 59 Jochebed was a woman of faith. She trusted in her God Jehovah. In defiance of Pharaoh's decree she refused to kill her baby, later named Moses, and after 3 months, when he could no longer be concealed in the house, she placed him in an ark of papyrus and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. Pharaoh's daughter found the baby and claimed him for herself, but, as it worked out, Moses' own mother was asked to nurse him. As the child grew, Jochebed, together with her husband, was very diligent to teach her children the principles of pure worship, as is reflected in their later lives. X2. 1-10. According to the Masoretic text, Jochebed was the sister of Amram's father Kohath. That is to say, Amram married his aunt, which was not unlawful at the time. X6. 18, 20 However, some scholars believe that Jochebed was Amram's cousin rather than his aunt, for the Greek Septuagint so reads, conveying the same idea as the Syriac Peshitta and Jewish traditions. For example, Exodus 6. 20 reads in part, Jochebed the daughter of his father's brother. LXX, Bagster Amram took his uncle's daughter Jochebed. But when Amram married he took his cousin Jochebed. If an Amram married a kinswoman of his called Jochebed. KX a footnote of Rotherham on the expression his father's sister says. Probably merely a female member of his father's family. Thomas Scott in his explanatory notes 1832 says, according to the Septuagint and the Jewish traditions, Jochebed was cousin, not aunt to Amram. The best critics suppose that Jochebed was the cousin German of Amram, and not his aunt. Clark's commentary, well Numbers 26. 59 says Jochebed was Levi's daughter. It could mean granddaughter, as in so many other places in the scriptures, where son is used to denote a grandson. In his translation, F. Fenton comments that the expression born to Levi in this same verse, in the Hebrew idiom of language, does not mean to Levi personally, but simply a descendant of the tribe. The length of time makes it impossible for her to have been Levi's personal child. If, on the other hand, the Masoretic text is correct et o textoi acute miritra longo, Joel, Book of 85, 4. A headman of the Gadites living in Bashan. 1ch 5. 11, 12. 5. The firstborn son of the prophet Samuel. The descendant of No. 2 and father of Heman the Levitical singer. 1ch 6. 28, 33, 36. 15. 17 Joel and his younger brother Abijah had been appointed by their father to be judges, but their dishonesty in office gave the people an excuse to ask for a human king. 1-8. 1-5. At 1 Chronicles 6. 28 The Masoretic text and certain translations says Vashni was Samuel's firstborn. Scholars, however, generally agree that Joel was in the original Hebrew, a reading retained by the Syriac Peshitta and the Laggadian edition of the Greek Septuagint. Compare 1-8. 2. Similarity between Joel and the ending of a preceding word in the text Samuel possibly caused a scribe inadvertently to drop the name Joel altogether. Seemingly, he then mistook the Hebrew word #she_ni meaning and the second son for the proper name Vashni and inserted the letter Warren before the name Abijah. 6. One of David's mighty men. Brother of Nathan. 1ch 11. 26, 38. 7. a Gershonite Levite of the house of Ladan, son of Jehieli. 1ch23. 7. 8 Joel the chief and 130 of his brothers sanctified themselves and helped bring the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. 1ch15. 4. 7. 11-14 Joel and his brother Zephon were later appointed as overseers of the sanctuary treasures. 1ch26.